So with my board games, I've got 3 groups of games. Piles, collections, organized, disorganized. The first group are games that I play weekly or monthly, either solo or with the gaming group, the guys at the club. Examples of this would be Dark Souls, Pathfinder the Adventure card game, Zombicide Black Plague. They're Conan. They're in constant rotation. It doesn't make sense to dedicate a place on my shelf for them in the Fritz cave. So they kind of exist in boxes and bins, ready to go in the moment. Then there's my second group of games that I really enjoy. I really, really enjoy. Twilight Imperium, Descent First Edition, Kingdom Death Monster. But they require the stars to align. They don't get played as much. I need to kind of set things up in advance. We're going to dedicate a weekend, or we're going to say, hey, for the next couple of weeks, we're going to try and make our way through some Lantern Years here, play through there. They have a prominent place, but they're kind of on hold. Then there's the third pile of games that I really enjoy playing. Examples would be Space Hulk and Relic, Warhammer 40,000 titles. The D&D adventure games on there. But the challenge is, based on the crossover with other game things that I enjoy, like Dungeons & Dragons and Wargaming, it's kind of like I get my Warhammer 40,000 fix by playing tabletop. So I don't play Space Hulk as much. Or if I'm going to play Space Hulk, I feel like, well, I just played 40K yesterday on there. Let me enjoy another gaming title. And that kind of rotates a little bit on there. But there is a fourth pile. There's the pile of shame, the pile of guilt. These are games that, for whatever reason, I've acquired them. I don't play them that often at all. They sit on my shelf and they kind of taunt me from there. So this brings the question of, when do you sell? When do you trade? When do you cycle out and get rid of a title from your collection? That's what we're going to explore, and I'm going to look for some feedback and some comments for you guys to make me feel better and justify holding on to these games, or perhaps getting rid of them. So my first question when I'm looking at games from this fourth pile, what is my investment in? If it's just a core box, if I've spent $50, $60, $70, whatever, it's just a core box, that's easier to trade. That's easier to let go than, say, if I have a greater investment, meaning I've got the core, I've got some expansions, maybe there are some aftermarket accessories, like I've sleeved my games, sleeved some of the cards on there. So if I get rid of it, if I trade it away, just financially, that's a greater expenditure. I've already kind of put that up front. So it's easier, that's kind of like the first piece on the decision tree here. It's easier if it's just one box, a core, I'm not really feeling it, than if I'm in a little bit. And these are games, I should say these are games that maybe I played initially, and for whatever reason they didn't quite click, or I purchased them in anticipation of something to manifest and it never manifested on there. They're not part of the regular group 1, 2, 3 play cycle in my collection. The big thing for me, and I have to say, space depends a lot. I'm fortunate to have a man cave, so space isn't that much of a priority, although there's some law. There's some computer science law that says, whatever space you have, it's going to immediately fill up. Doesn't matter if it's a lot or a little bit on there. So certainly I could call the collection a little bit from that perspective on there. But for me, the big thing is the mechanics of the game, the rules of the game. That's the deciding factor of whether it stays or goes. And by that I mean, based on my gaming personality, the types of titles I enjoy playing, if it's a solid rule set, if it's a solid game, I'm willing to hold on to it. I'm willing to hold on to it because tastes change, or a group might come along of players that are willing to try it and play it from that perspective. There might be a time where, although it's not a primary title or something I would primarily play, based on waiting for some other games to come in or some Kickstarters, or I just finished an amazing game I was playing Kingdom Death Monster, made it through an entire cycle, an entire Lantern Year. Now I need a break for a little bit. Maybe I'll play one of these other titles that I haven't played, in that fourth pile on there. So the rules are the deciding factor of whether it stays or goes. And an example of this would be a number of years ago, I picked up Tales of the Arabian Nights. And you got to flip through no spoilers, you got to flip through the book and figure out what to do. And it's just going to be utter chaos on there with a lot of the choices, although there are some strategies. And we played it extensively for a while with the gaming group. And then it kind of fell out of favor, because you move on to new titles as a group, which is normal. I played it on my own a little bit on there as a solo game, and I felt like, okay, I kind of saw everything I needed to see with this game. But the narrative is good, production value is good, the rules are solid for what it says it's going to do. I held on to it. And I held on to it for, 3, 4, 5 years. And then out of the blue, the gaming group, a couple of new players, was like, we're looking for kind of a choose-your-own RPG, fantasy, light type experience, but with a different narrative. And what about something like Arabian Nights? And I'm like, hey, I've got it. We're ready to go. And we had so much fun playing that for a good, 2 months straight. And then, of course, we burned ourselves out on it. But that's an example. I could have said I was done with the game. I have seen everything that I personally am going to see, and it would have been great to cycle it out, but it was a solid title. It was a good investment on there. Hold on to it. So for me, that's the defining thing. How are the rules? How are the narrative? How does it play? If it works for me and my personality, I'll roll the dice. I'll hold on to it. If not, hit or miss, it happens, then maybe I'll cycle it out. Your thoughts, your criteria. How do you handle that? Are you totally draconian where you're like, this game doesn't do it, it's out, it's gone, and you really have your collection tight? Or do you just kind of hide them in the closet, hide them under the bed, so this way you don't have to see them and you're not reminded by them, but they're there?